Okay, Evan Grant did a real nice piece in the morning news getting us primed for what the Rangers need. And the first big one is starting pitching. I didn't realize how bad they were. 29th out of 30 teams in walk percentage by starters, 9.2 per 9. That's a walk per inning. Their starters averaged, and they ranked 25th of 30 teams in rotational ERA at 4.63. So they need more strikes, less walks, and more innings from the starters. Everybody would kind of guess that, even without knowing the absolute specifics. And the names that he throws out, you got the big ones, DeGrom and Rodon and Verlander, and that's sexy. But if you need multiples, can you get one of those, Wolchuk?
Yes.
You can.
Yes, if you need multiples. Now, there's a couple of guys that are going to be, veterans. You mentioned Verlander, Kershaw. Maybe you could do a 2-year deal on some of those older arms, and that'll be a high salary, but it's only for short term. Rodon will be, say, a 4-year deal. That'll be more long term, like they did with John Gray last year. But if you pair that with, say, hey, this is a 1 or 2-year deal where it's coming off your books pretty quickly, and it's funny because you'd think, no, the Rangers wouldn't be able to afford this, but evidently, yeah. I mean, the owners have the ability to write that check. Everyone that I've talked to that's linked within the Rangers say absolutely they can pony up and spend that money. So I was thinking about it today, actually. I think a Rodon, and maybe you go after a Kershaw if he doesn't end up going back to the Dodgers. I think it's either the Dodgers or the Rangers for a Kershaw. So if you get a Kershaw and a Rodon, and all of a sudden you've got Gray and you bring back Martin Perez, and then you've got a Dane Dunning and a Glenn Otto or whoever it might be fighting for the 5th spot in your rotation, you've made up your starting rotation.
So you've spent like 60, 65 million on pitching.
And I think that's
in payroll.
That's reasonable, and that's very doable, and you actually feel like you've got a pretty solid starting rotation.
Zach, can I ask you, okay, do you feel like that they're in this spot because of what happened with the farm system this year?
Yes.
That they were not expecting. They're thinking, okay, let's go get the bats with, they spend all the money on the middle infield.
Yeah, and then the young pitchers will rise.
And the young pitchers will rise when we have these veteran bats.
Yeah.
So is CY in a bind and they're having to spend money because the farm system just didn't develop?
I think that they probably felt that they would need to add another top of the rotation type of arm. But I do think their hope was a Cole Winn would come along. Cole Reagans did end up pitching and looked okay at the big league level, but certainly isn't a guy that you feel, all right, he's definitely earned a spot in the rotation. He'll be competing for, let's say, a 5th spot as well. But yeah, I mean, they absolutely took a step back when it comes to their minor league development. Even a guy like Jack Leiter is not as far along as they were hoping he would be.
Okay, right as I was saying, it's been tame for us until now. It's really starting to pour here downtown Dallas, and you can see the rain's coming down in sheets.
That
right?
happens immediately
from a few minutes
we
ago.
Blinked and all of a sudden, holy cow!
Serious acceleration here in the storm pattern, and maybe we're about to get more of this for the next couple 2-3 hours. Okay, Evan Grant did say the top names like DeGrom, Rodon, Verlander, he said that's the top of the market. He doesn't expect the Rangers to seriously be in that, at least right now. He was more looking at the real options for the Rangers. Eovaldi, who's good but hurt. Is it Jameson Taillon?
Yeah, from the Yankees.
From the Yankees. He was their number 5 guy, but he has some really good numbers. Michael Wacha. Tyler Anderson with the Dodgers. Chris Bassitt. Quality arms, but maybe more in the 2, 3, 4 range.
Chris Bassitt knows your division well, was in Oakland A for a long time, was an all-star. Chris Bassitt would be interesting. You get him back within the division. Michael Wacha is a guy who's bounced around Major League Baseball, formerly was with the St. Louis Cardinals for a long time. That's an older veteran guy, and the Rangers have had a lot of success. Now, they've turned it over. You're going to have a whole new coaching staff now with, Bucci coming in here, but they have had success. When you look at guys like Minor and Lynn and Gibson, and even now with Martin Perez, if you were to bring in a guy like Michael Wacha, maybe that's not, we're excited. That's not a sexy name like a Carlos Rodon, but then they've ended up getting an effective year later in that guy's career.
Do you feel like, though, that maybe the front office with JD being gone, that won't be the demeanor that they take? that going out and getting the guy that might be older, that might be a little banged up.
Yeah.
Do you
Not
think
looking for value as much as
that's
just
what I'm saying.
looking to
I
go
think they
make
want a Rodon. Like I think that's the guy they're going to be trying to target.
To me, that
need.
makes a lot of sense because you've spent so much money last year on on your bats, but you need to get this pitching right.
Yeah.
You need to, the first thing to do to be competitive here is the pitching, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be spending the kind of money they spent last year for a bad team.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. That's an important thing to know when it comes to how much they might spend. They have about 105 in commitments right now. If you can include all the arbitration money they'll likely spend. The payroll last year was at 164. The average payroll for the 12 teams that made the postseason was 197. And the average for those that advanced to the divisional series was 204. So they're at 105 right now. The price to get to the DS is $100 million more. Now, when Ray Davis was asked about that, he sort of, gave a probably not that much. But it's going to be significant, especially if they were already at 164. I think you can bank on being ready to spend $60 million when the winter meetings get started. And maybe it should be closer to 85 or 90 million. But if they're not going for the big name, if they go for those smaller secondary pitching names that might cost you between 13 and 20 instead of 25 to 30, maybe they could stack up 2 or 3 pitchers and get a bat, especially when I mentioned the kind of bats that Evan Grant's. Now, when I see something in the morning news, I typically think these aren't just guys writing like names they think make sense. He's not looking at free agents and being like, yeah, maybe this guy and maybe this guy. He's like talking with people because this is Evan freaking Grant. He's been on the beat forever.
No question.
Right? So there's Easter eggs in these. And for hitters, Jock Peterson, Brandon Belt, who's like 35 years old. He's from Lufkin. Jock Peterson played for $6 million a year last year. It does seem like, at least from the nature of this article, and Grant was the guy who was talking last year about like, hey, holy cow, they might actually go spend some huge money. I don't know. I'm kind of taking that to the bank, though. That would be underwhelming. From the bat department, that's not changing your trajectory when it comes to the offense, is it?
Well, Brandon Belt's a guy that, is a former Giant. So Bruce Bochy knows him very well. I mean, there's a relationship.
The hitting coach was Belt's hitting coach as well.
So they know if Brandon Belt has anything left. I mean, that's an all-time great San Francisco Giant hitter. So that could help you. I mean, Jock Peterson's a guy that maybe is coming off a down year, but he also can give you some more pop within your lineup. Now, an easy fix to this, add a bat and help your pitching. You make the trade for Shohei Ohtani.
Now we're talking, Wolchuk.
Yes. And I do think that that's something the Rangers are going to pursue. The question is, will the Angels give him up?
What would you have to give up? Would it be
You're going to have to give
Rocker
up
and Leiter?
We're talking
The whole
about
farm.
Leiter, Owen White, Evan Carter. We're talking about some of the best pieces you have for your farm, and I'd say, hell yeah, you give up whatever it takes.
How many years do you have left on this deal within 2?
You'd have to re-up with Ohtani.
Yeah,
you got
he's only got
year.
1 year
You got
left.
one. He just signed a 1-year extension.
With $30 million,
Yes.
right?
So, I mean, you're looking at giving Ohtani whatever the hell he wants, and I'm quite content with doing that.
Does it make any better if you're trading away all these pitchers or the prospects that are pitchers?
For me, it does, because it's a big question mark, and right now the Rangers haven't shown they can develop any of these guys, and hopefully they fix that problem. But as of today, right now, I don't have faith that that's that's going to happen, right, until they prove it.
Did you think you could keep Rocker or Leiter, though, in this scenario where you trade for
You can
Ohtani?
keep one of them. I think you can keep Rocker. I don't think you can keep Leiter.